Welcome to Monkey and Frank podcast. My name's Do, and I am love. I am safe. I am wise. I am enough. I am blessed. Today we're going to be continuing the journey. I'm back home. Anthony just passed away, and I am starting to listen to a lot of Ram Dass and a lot of Moji. I'm seeing that there are archetypes and that I'm starting to understand my own the lingo. Everything's starting to come inside and to really blossom in terms of knowledge, but the feelings were not following. They were not following suit. My feelings were sad. My feelings were angry. The big angry warrior was really not enjoying himself. He was getting triggered at everything. My cats, like just now as the cat came in and meowed, like just the frustration, and he still like gets triggered. And I love them, but I didn't back then. So let's explain the story. I'm back home from Peru. Anthony just died, and I'm feeling raw. I'm feeling every night like I need to do cannabis ceremony, but I can see that just smoking the cannabis as well is taking a toll. It's like I can see that it's a great tool. Every time I take this beautiful plant inside of me, I start talking to that inner monologue, and it's positive, it's reassuring, it's teaching me so many things, because as I'm doing my cannabis ceremony, I'm writing in my journal about my intention. I listen to Ram Dass, I come, I meditate. I mean, over and over I am getting attached to this feeling of this plant medicine and cannabis, and the confusion starts to set in now. The confusion of food, just food. You know, being attracted to sweets like donuts, and I feel bad because in Peru they teach you gotta eat clean, you gotta eat with the plant, and Ram Dass is talking about how perfect I am and how so much love is out there that can be tapped in and just observed, felt, and I'm not feeling none of it, but it's real. I've just been to Peru. I've just seen it for one full week. The magic of what can happen when everybody is just insane together, taking a medicine to heal the trauma that is so real that you can't deny. Spirituality, for me, like I just need to go on this tangent. Spirituality for me is like the placebo effect, basically. The placebo effect is real. It can be measured. It's, the test of all tests when you want to release medication and all. So I start seeing like it's real. Like I can influence my body, my soul, by just believing that there is a place called Source and a God exists, and I am perfect, and I'm here to experience, and I'm not too sure why I'm here, but I'm here to experience love. Love has something to do with it. Ram Dass keeps talking about it, and his words make sense. I listen to it and I'm like, with the plant medicine inside of me, cannabis, and the ceremonies I was doing, I could listen to his words in a different light, like in a really believing what it would feel like to be Ram Dass almost, and I could see it, but my mind and my feelings were not yet, they were not happy, even though I was sucking in a lot of knowledge, because the confusion of, for example, food, example of like abundance is real. Abraham Hicks talks about it. Create your vortex, put everything that's beautiful inside of it, and you'll see the magic is going to come towards you. You're going to get abundance. And she has this Hester friend, and I'm like, okay, it makes sense, your imaginary friend. I've got kind of the same thing going on with my archetypes, where I really see them as others, because when I would get triggered, it'd be especially with my wife, because of all of my trauma that I had with girls growing up. The voice would instantly become righteous, and for good reason, because his reasons of righteousness, of you should respect my boundaries, because now I've got all this new belief that I've acquired from Ram Dass and Peru, and karma should not be spread around. You should keep your karma on your side and I'll keep mine. But I can't just bring everything, this knowledge, this new way of life in this family. But yet, when I did, she understood, but she didn't want to be lectured. She didn't want to be taught by me the same way I didn't want to be taught by her, because everybody's journey is so unique to themselves. Like, you want to find your own answers. If somebody would give you the answers all the time, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't. And I understood that, but the trigger inside of me kept coming, and then I would become really, that voice in my mind, it was so loud, would become so righteous, even under the influence of cannabis or good intention or sage burning and breath work, and constantly crying. And not necessarily, the crying was getting less and less, but it was still very powerful at the beginning, very powerful. So lots and lots of crying. And what a time, thinking back about it, I get emotional, and it's really good, these stories, what I'm doing right now. I'm really happy. So let's continue on with the story. I am feeling all of these feelings. The guilt is coming. I'm feeling shame. I'm getting triggered all the time. And I want to get better. And I think to myself, what can I do? And mushrooms seemed to be the next best option, as I was no longer afraid of psychedelics anymore. I had acquired, I guess, a courage because of the Sapo experience and the Ayahuasca ceremony, the fourth one, a courage to just go inside my feelings no matter what they would show me. The fear, the extreme fear, or even the extreme anxiety, or it felt like panic attacks, as if my throat would close, and I would just lean into it, and I'd be like, oh, there you go, throat. There's nothing that can scare me right now, because I remember so clearly the Sapo experience. Let's go into it. And I would just look at it, observe it, really observe my body, and go into it. I was into CrossFit. I am into CrossFit. But all my life, I had been a computer chair nerd, cigarette smoker, weed. I never exercised as I should have, and now I'm 38 years old, going through a big experience in Peru, and Wim Hof breathing, working out. I can see that the body has such an impact on the spiritual self. The more I would gain mobility, the more I would gain a trust with my body, into performing, into saying, hey, I'm there for you, I will be working on you now, but I'm scared. And having that communication with it made it grow so fast, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm really excited, and I will be talking about it. But back then, it was still very difficult. My body was not in working order. I would say like 43%, meaning I had the upper body, going, but the shoulders were really leaning forward, bad posture, still being very lazy, but trying, because all of my spirituality and my pain and my suffering was really taking over my free time, because with children you really don't have a lot of free time after they go to bed. That's when you get, and then you go to sleep, because sleep is so important to me to be able to just survive. I'm already depressed as it is. I need my sleep. And I was having horrible time sleeping. I would wake up 3-4 times a night. Yeah, you remember? I remember too, dude. It was horrible. I would wake up so tired, and yeah, I got you. And I would wake up so tired, and the children, such a blessing and a curse, and like the paradox were strong. And so now I continue on with this kind of lifestyle of over and over, and it felt like a dark night of the soul. Like I was like, man, I know all of the knowledge, I know all of the lingo, and it actually made sense. Like I felt it. All the meditations and the work that I was doing with cannabis was really coming in nice. Like I could see, like, this makes sense. Oh my God, like every coincidence, every YouTube video that would show up, or something that I would read, or the podcast would lead to another revelation, another like wow moment. What is happening? This spirituality, but the feelings were not there. The anxiety, the panics were still in my soul, and the triggers. So I decide to do magic mushroom. I want to go in, figure out what's going on, and deal with it. Whatever trauma is in me, let's do it. And I start looking, and I can't find, and I'm I kind of am desperate at this point in a way. I remember the feeling of desperateness of like, I really need to do this now, because when is my fear gonna come of doing things that are extreme? I know that in time we forget. Humans forget. And I was noticing that pattern as well with God and Mother, as when you are born, the big forgetting of your true self is the greatest forgetting, right? And as you grow and you rediscover and you remember and you go back to your soul and you say, here I am today in this body, what can I do to grow in spirituality? And it gives you like this, okay, and then you go and you do the work and you come back to your soul and you say, wow, what's going on? Like, and you try to remember and it's giving you clues and advice through, your illusions of what you're seeing, hearing, feeling. Wow, right? But anxiety is still present. And I think to myself, I should grow some, and my friend Yoshi has grown some, and I start talking to him. I was very nervous because now I come back from Peru. I have this new family that I communicate with on WhatsApp on a regular basis, but still to go to somebody else's place to experience a mushroom trip. And I ask him with all of my fear and courage and insecurity and going back to like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And he agrees. And I drive all the way to New York to do magic mushroom. And I decide to myself, as I'm listening to podcasts and Ram Dass and learning my knowledge into the spirituality, I hear somewhere about this guy doing a practice of every time he does a breath in, he would say to himself, I love myself. So he would take a breath in and say, I love myself. And at this point, the desperation was deep, like the sadness, the darkness, the feelings of just pure darkness. Like I was so weak, I have to admit, that I wouldn't even have had the courage to kill myself because of the fear. I as a kid, I remember being always so in states of depression, of thinking of how I would do it and how it would feel like, and to feel like it would go dark. And every time I would go through these feelings and I would get to the part where I would die and everything would go dark, a panic would set in inside that would ground me in my bed, that I couldn't move, and I would run away from that feeling and just stay in my depression with the knowledge that I was even too weak to do anything about it. And that's how it was, and it always is, even to this day. I understand when he meows like that, it's like telling me what I'm saying is powerful, and I appreciate it. He's a golden cat named Jazz, and he's awesome, and he talks very much to me in spirituality, and I've been very blessed to have him in my life. I'm getting choked up over a cat. I would have never thought. I wanted him to die last year before Peru. Like, he was. Anyways, I have shame in my heart. So now I hear this podcast about him saying, I love myself every breath in. And I'm at work and I start doing that. I start doing it. I say, why not? Let's give it a try. And it feels good. It feels like I used to call it a mind stop. When your mind is thinking, which I used to do, and I can't wait to get to that part, but I know how the mind works, for me anyways, where it would just concentrate on one thing and loop over and over, like, what do I need to do, and when do I get there, and the destination. If I would drive somewhere, I would think only of home as I was driving, and I would picture the red light that would be coming up and the next left, and like all of it, all the time. My brain was really busy in terms of being vocal about it anyways, and loud. And every time I would take a deep breath in now and I would say I love myself, well, there you go. That voice would just stop, because I would take control of that voice in my head instead of just letting it run wild. And I was so intrigued by the breath because of the Wim Hof breathing and because of all of it was working. Like, when I would breathe deep, every single breath, it felt great. It felt like a reset. Every time I take a deep breath in and I stay at the top, it resets the entire thing. No matter how I'm feeling, I can handle my feelings, because I've done it with Sapo. I've had the experience, and that's comforting. And thank you, by the way, Mother. That was such a beautiful gift. I feel blessed. The courage that you've put inside my heart through those two experiences alone, and even the experiences at the beginning where I suffered, like, what a great job, by the way. I commend you. I want to say it out loud. I don't care. You are awesome. I love you so fucking much. Yes. So I was taking a deep breath in. I would say I love myself, and the mind break really felt good. So I did that, and that was the start of really a peace and quiet in my mind that I had never felt before. As I always thought that this fast pace of mind, the brain, was just an attribute of, like, intelligence, or intelligence, and like I was judging it. I was judging every thought. I was judging everything I did and what everyone did. And when I would do that mind break of I love myself while taking a breath, the entire thing would go quiet, and it felt great. So I decided to go to New York and just do that the entire time. I wanted to drive for 7 hours to New York while doing that exercise and see if I could. So I did. I drove, and it was very interesting. For one, I was proud of myself for the mind power. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, and yet I did. And no music, like no radio, no nothing, just that practice. And on top of that, I added and he kind of mentioned it in the podcast, where after a while when you do that, when you breathe out, it feels like gratitude. So for him, when he would breathe out, it felt like gratitude. And I thought to myself, how about I just breathe out gratitude, and I kind of force it, because why not? The mind break was working. I felt good, and I was breathing through the heart, but my heart was closed. I was scared. It didn't have any opening at all. The walls were all there, and my walls were, I keep coughing, so I press pause and I cough like a madman, and then I come back. My walls were still there. I remember feeling my heart really being closed in and scared. So I drive to New York and I do the practice. I feel proud. I get there and I see Yoshi and I feel good. I had set, though, because of my fear, I had set so many expectations on myself. One, the expectation that I was going to be a wizard. I was going to do the practice of I love myself, no thoughts, being here and now, and really going in to my body to fix whatever is the problem and be a master at it from day one, and let's go. Well, I managed to do the drive. I managed to do the I love myself all the way there with the gratitude, and that felt great. And yeah, so now I get there, and as soon as I see Yoshi, my feelings of excitement, love, I'm a kid again almost. I don't remember being in New York. I don't remember being there by car anyways, or alone. And wow, all right, cool. So all of my expectations go out the window, and I just am with him, and it's cool. Like, I'm vibing and I'm doing this. And the next date I decide to take, 5 point something gram, and I tell him, hey, I feel really comfortable with you. We just had a super crazy experience. Do you mind if I would kind of take off my clothing after I plan, I tell him all of what I'm thinking, right? Because I'm thinking it's going to be like ayahuasca. I'm going to do exactly like in my fourth ceremony. I'll do the breathing. It's going to be great. I fast. I make sure I don't drink, 4 hours or a couple of hours before. Perfect. I take the mushroom, 5 grams. Boom. Just eat it, swallow, tastes good. I love it. I'm super happy. I go in his bed, and it's a small apartment where it's just his bed, kitchen, bathroom, super tiny, and I love it. So New York, I've never seen that before, and it was awesome. It felt like Montreal, like old wood, old buildings, super tight. Montreal is like that, and it's so awesome. If you have a chance, go see that. So go inside his bed, and I remove my clothing, and I just wait for it while listening to some music. I ask him, this is my playlist, if just play it, and I would really appreciate it. And I took 5 gram of the Golden Teacher variety. Very, very good. I feel it coming in. I start moving my body. I start breathing. I start sweating. Like my body is going through a fungus reaction. From now, I can tell from experience, it's your body just goes into shock of what is happening. Psilocybin goes through your veins, and as my eyes were, I could see my third eye from the Wim Hof breathing starting to get brighter and brighter and brighter, and that was cool. And the feeling inside my body, I was handling it like a champ. It was really powerful. It was pulsing. I felt, like I said, a lot of heat, and I was moving and I was vibing, and all of a sudden I need to pee, and I'm like, fuck, what do I do? I open my eyes, and as soon as I open my eyes, the world in front of me is moving a lot. The door to where he's sitting on the other side on his futon couch thing, on his laptop, I see it warp like a balloon. It would go in and out. I would look at the frames on the wall and everything would be moving. I thought to myself, that is insane. Open eye hallucination without any gap or interruption. It's flowing as if it's water. And I'm looking at this going, wow, that exists. I flag Yoshi down. I'm like, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, but I couldn't even fantasize or dream or think of how to put my clothing. It was just out of reach. The feelings inside of me were going so strong, and the body was going through such an experience, like a physical experience, where, like I said, the ending I could feel my entire body pulsing, and the uniqueness of the feeling was somewhat scary. So I needed to breathe and I needed to focus. I wanted to just like survive because that was getting intense. So I get to the bathroom and I sit and I end up peeing, and as soon as I sit on the bathroom, I start to cry. Like, cry like there's no tomorrow. Big sobbing cries. And the toilet paper is right there. It's good. I do not know why I'm crying, but I am crying. And when I'm looking at everything around me, things are moving. The soap is like climbing up the wall and down, and the mirror is twisting upon everything is moving. The sink is warping. The floor is water. I was mind blown. At the same time, my sadness was so overpowering that I could not stop crying. And what I felt was a vulnerability so deep that that's all it was. I was vulnerable, and the idea and the feeling and the entirety of that word was making me cry like there was no tomorrow. My glands in my nose were on at maximum volume. I end up finished crying, and I'm like, okay, I survived this. Very good. Let's wash our hands and let's go back into bed. I am naked. This feels awkward. Let's do this. I get up, go to the sink. As soon as I press on the soap, you know when the soap jams at the tip and it's a little bit dried up and the soap just squirt right on your shirt? That's what happens. Well, on my skin. And now I've got soap on my skin, and I'm not one to want to have soap on my skin because, well, it's sticky and whatever. So I try to wash it off, and I can't for the life of me succeed. So I just grab the towel and I wipe myself, and I just get out of there. I need to get to that bed. The things that I'm hallucinating, which is just things disappearing, reappearing, moving, like a lot though, like fast. And it was not scary. I was handling it like a champ. Like, it was not making me seasick. It was not making me... I was actually very, very impressed at the display at this life is an illusion. How can this be? How can things just disappear, reappear, move in such a fluid way? And I don't know if I did, because even when I would look at my hand would morph into a lizard's hand and come back, and my fingers would start twirling. And even though I would move, like, I never questioned to really inspect it and to, like, I knew I was hallucinating, and it was incredible. And I think my brain would have, even if I would have went to touch my face, everything would have went back to, and everything would be morphing together. It marries everything so well that I was utterly impressed, like impressed at the fabric of reality and what my brain and psilocybin could do together. What a trip. So I start walking confident back to the bed. Now I'm naked again. And as I cross the kitchen, Yoshi's there. I drop to a knee because the feeling of that I just said it. Oh man. I, I start to cry basically again, but now it's like on one knee, like the statue that's thinking, and I'm feeling vulnerable. That's it, like extreme and I start to cry again, and Yoshi comes in front of me and start passing me paper towel, one at a time, and I blow my nose and I cry and I feel vulnerable, and I don't know if I'm talking. I'm basically crying my heart out, my soul out, my entire body out, and the feeling of vulnerability. And finally I catch a breath. I'm finished with the snot. I feel like I'm done. Great. I start to get up. Boom! It was like a tick, because time disappeared. I didn't know what time was anymore, and I was stuck in a loop. And as soon as I would do the tick, I would start crying again in vulnerability, and he would pass me paper towel and I would blow my nose. That would last for maybe 5 minutes. I would get a hang of it and I would say finally, and then tick, and I would cry again. At one point, not at one point, after the third or the fourth time, it's like I kept saying, I remember this. Boom, go back to crying. I remember this. Boom, go back to crying. The loop, I would love to ask Yoshi, but I'm pretty sure it lasted like 18 and like a good. And what broke the loop, just to, if you guys are ever in that experience, is Yoshi, at one point when he was passing me the paper towel for blowing, it was everywhere. There's paper towels everywhere on the floor, and they were disappearing, reappearing, and it was amazing, but they were everywhere. And he just started throwing them in a light way, saying like, make a mess, because I was feeling vulnerable, and I remember being very apologetic for like this situation. I was naked, and like I'm sure the nakedness was the reason, but maybe not, like probably not. And that's the paradox. I'm sure it was both. It was the idea that that was meant to be, and the idea that if you need to open up your heart, this is a way to do it. And like maybe that's the first way. I don't know. For me, vulnerability kicked my ass with 5.5 grams of golden teacher. That loop was insane because I didn't know about time. I remember like really not knowing about time, and when I would look up to Yoshi passing me paper towel, I could see in his bedroom the window was open, and I'm telling you, it was impressive. It would go from daylight to night to daylight, but true daylight, true night, and the shadows and the light that would go inside his bedroom would switch on and off. When the loop was finished and I finally, and I stayed naked, I finally got out of it because I laughed at him throwing the paper towel everywhere and saying, it's okay, we got this, and like just enjoying it. And he was really quiet the entire time. Thank you so much, Yoshi. That's one thing. Being a trip sitter, the quietness and the attention that was given by my soul brother was so touching. That is giving ultimate space to somebody's soul to go through what they need to go through in the moment that is so vulnerable. So I could see in his bedroom the beauty of the changes. I would look at his coffee table, and the coffee table would disappear, reappear, disappear. The lighter would disappear from it. They would come back. His kitchen is very small, let's say 12 feet. It would go from close to my nose, like a sink, and all the way down 60 feet, 30 feet down, come back, go, boom, ba, boo, ba, dee, da, like non-stop for 4 hours or something like that. And I didn't know what time it was. I didn't know what was happening. I was mind blown. By now, I'm finished crying my vulnerability, and I'm just sitting in this amazement of what is this and how beautiful it is, and wow, 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 thank you, thank you, thank you, wow, wow, wow. When the trip ended at the end, the energy that I had spent and the food that I had not eaten during the day was really catching up, and I was starting to feel tired. And when the feeling of excitement welled down and I was really inside my own head again, I was disappointed. I was so disappointed that I had not dealt with my trauma. I felt the same. I cried for I don't know how long, but it felt like a million years. Like that loop was insane. And because it's never ending and you feel very vulnerable. Well, that was a double vulnerability, that loop and being vulnerable in there. But I felt disappointed that I had not achieved what so many of my fellow members in Peru had achieved, is that like to see a trauma and to confront it and boom, bang, done, have a nice day, and like you're out of my life. Or I'm sure that never happened and it's only my perception, but that's what I felt at that time. Of course, that's only my perception. It doesn't work like that. But I was feeling like that. And I asked him to smoke a joint, and I smoke a joint, and I kind of marry everything together, but I still feel disappointed in myself. I was thinking at the time that the amazement of, when I was under the medicine, was kind of a failure in me, because they talk in Peru as when you are in ceremony, if you are wanting to laugh internally, and that's where the growth happens. Or if you are going to cry, but really cry internally and look inward so that you don't disturb the it's not about not disturbing the circle, but it's really, they emphasize that if you keep the work inside your heart, it's more beneficial, and I guess you grow better. So it's kind of like, I took it all as that. So when I became excited, I thought, oh, look at that. I'm the person that laughs during ceremony because I didn't have enough strength or maybe enough courage or enough awareness to go inside my heart. Awareness, or maybe even knowledge, or maybe, I didn't know, but I didn't have it. And I didn't go inward. It was very outward, and for 3 hours I wasted or I don't know how long, for a long period of time I wasted my time in amazement and just wow, instead of doing the work. So I took the cannabis, I integrated what was going on, and the idea that you can't just have a quick fix. It's going to be a long process. You got this. That voice inside was positive. The mushroom, like after an experience like that, it really opened up my eyes to maybe it is an illusion. Maybe God does exist. And maybe Ram Dass and everything that I feel is so right and it's so true, is true. Because I feel it. I know that as I hear the knowledge, it feels great. And yet I'm still haunted, I felt like. The next day comes, I drive back home. And during the back home, I don't necessarily do the meditation of I love myself, but I'm thinking about my trip. And I'm driving thinking of my disappointment and just sadness. And I come back home and I tell my wife what had just happened. And yet that's where I was. And I think I'm going to end it here. That's a nice, place where I'm going to be able to remember. Monkey and Frank, my friends. Monkey and Frank. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and here. Subscribe if you like it. And thank you so much for listening. I'm going through a journey, and it's really, really, really beautiful. And I can feel my energy, my frequency as I'm telling the story kind of go through my heart, and the feeling of the river going through it and kind of cleaning house and enjoying the process is bliss. So thank you very much, guys. Love you.